I'm going to give you an equation here. I'm going to give you y equals 3 halves x minus 1. And what I want to do is I want to start by building a little table. I want you to tell me your favorite number in the whole wide world to plug in for x. 6. Nope, that's not your favorite number in the whole wide world. 0. 0 is your favorite number to plug in and pick. Although 6 is also an excellent number, we'll use 6 also. Why is 6 your favorite number in the whole wide world?
I don't know.
It goes in the vote.
It is a nice number. More importantly, why is 0 your favorite number in the whole wide world? It's the easiest one, because if I plug 0 in, what's 3 halves times 0? 0. That's why we like 0 a lot. It's real easy. And then 0 minus 1? Negative 1. Now, 6 is an actual, for this problem, 6 is a very good number to use. 5 would not have been a good number to use. Why not? Why is 6 better than 5?
It goes into 3 and 2.
It goes into the 2 is the important one. Because if I'm going to plug in 6, I have to take 3 halves and multiply by 6 and then subtract 1. How do I take 3 halves and multiply it by 6?
3 halves times 6 over 1.
I think of 6 as being 6 over 1. All right. And then what?
Cross cancel.
Cross cancel. And that's why 6 is a good number, because 6 cancels with the 2. If I had used 5, would 5 cancel with the 2? No, it'd be nasty, wouldn't it? All right, so we cross cancel. That becomes a 3, and that becomes a 1. And that works out great. What's 3 times 3? 9, and then we're just dividing by 1, so that doesn't change anything. What's 9 minus 1? 8. Okay, so basically right now we have 2 points. We have 0, comma, negative 1, and we have 6, comma, 8. I want to know 2 things. Number 1, for my equation y equals 3 halves x minus 1, what's the y-intercept? Negative 1. I would prefer that you write it as 0, comma, negative 1. The y-intercept is a point that has an x number and a y number. Well, that's a happy coincidence, isn't it? Our equation happened to have a negative 1 in it, and our y-intercept happens to have a negative 1 in it. Is that a happy coincidence?
You say so.
If I say so. All right, good. I said so. Number 2. I wish to know the slope. What's that? Is it going to be 3 over 2? Well, let's find out. How do I find the slope?
Is x1 or y2 minus 1? We can't do it on the graph with the counting.
We cannot do it on the graph with the counting because we don't have a graph. That's correct. When you do slope, you started to say the wrong thing. You started to put your x's on top, and then you corrected yourself. That made me very happy that you corrected yourself. When you do slope, make sure you always put your y's on top. That's the single biggest mistake people make with slope. They put the x's on top. Always got to have the y's on top. Okay, well, I'm going to subtract my y's. What do I get when I subtract my y's?
9.
8 minus negative 1, which I agree, that turns out to be 9, divided by 6 minus 0. That's 9 over 6. And that fraction happens to reduce. Happens to reduce to be 3 halves. Another happy coincidence that our slope turned out to be 3 halves, and we had that number 3 halves right there. We're not that lucky, are we? All right, so what's the moral of the story here? When I wrote this equation,
The slope is going to be the 3 halves.
the slope is going to be the number that's right in front of the x. And what's this number always going to be?
The y-intercept.
The y-intercept. Very good. And so we have a nice, very important equation about lines. It's usually written y equals mx plus b. And this is called slope, intercept, form of a line. Why would you call that slope, intercept, form, of a line?
Because it gives you the slope and the y-intercept.
Because it gives you the slope and it gives you the y-intercept. See, sometimes math people name things that make sense. This one makes sense. So in this equation, m is the slope, 0 comma b is the y-intercept. That makes graphing very, very easy. Graph y equals 3/2 x minus 1. If I'm asked to graph this equation, I begin by finding the y-intercept. What's the y-intercept?
-1.
0 comma negative 1. Thank you. Of course, I put scaling on my graph. We always put scaling on our graphs. So I start by marking my y-intercept, which is right here, 0 comma negative 1. And then I use my slope. What does my slope tell me to do?
3/2.
Move up 3/2. Now, on Friday, somebody in class asked me, can you give slope as a decimal? And my answer was, no, you don't want to give me a decimal. You really want to give me a fraction. And this is why you want it to be a fraction. The slope tells me go up 3 and over 2. If I wrote this as a decimal 1.5, what would I have to do? I'd have to go up 1.5 and then over 1. Do I want to go up 1.5? No, I really don't want to. I really want this to be a fraction. That's much easier. So I start right here and I climb up 3. 1, 2, 3. And I go over 2. 1, 2. And I put a dot right there. What if I wanted to find another dot? I could go down 3 and left 2, because that would be -3 over -2. Down is negative, left is negative. But two negatives give a positive. So I could have started here, and I could also go down 3 and left 2. Or I could have gone here and I could have done it again. I could have gone up 3 and over 2 again. So without having to do any work, without having to plug any numbers in, I can sit here and get as many dots on the line as I want.
And they'll all make a nice.
And as long as you count up 3 and over 2, up 3 and over 2 every single time, they'll all line up perfectly. You grab your ruler. I don't want to dig my ruler out. And you connect with what's supposed to be a nice straight line. Questions on that? All right. So that's good stuff. What if I gave you y equals? Somebody give me a slope.
6/5.
-6/5. We're going negative this time. -6/5 x plus 3. All right, I might ask you 3 questions. Question number 1, what's the slope?
-6/5.
Why do you know it's -6/5?
That's what the slope is. M equals so if you look in the formula.
We have y equals, this number right here is always the m. M is always a number right next to the x. Now, a lot of people will write slope equals -6/5 x. And when you do that, I'm going to take a point off. How come?
The X is included.
X is not included. Slope is just a number. Slope is -6/5. Slope doesn't have an x in it. Yes?
So say like the slope was 4, for example, like a whole number. Could you just put that over 1?
You would think of it as over 1. So you would go up 4 over 1. That's exactly correct.
So the slope would be 4 over 1 then.
Right. Question number 2, what's your y-intercept? 0, comma 3. Question number 3, draw a graph. Okay, gotta make my scaling. How do I use that slope and use that intercept to draw a graph? Well, where's the y-intercept again? Start at the intercept, 0, 3. 1, 2, 3 right there. And then you said exactly the right thing. I go down 6 because it's a negative and over 5. So I start here, I go down 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I go over 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I draw a dot. Then I play connect the dots. And I'm all done. There's my answer. And personally, I like that much, much better than having to do this. Because what numbers would you plug in? Well, what's your favorite number in the whole wide world?
0.
0. You would plug 0 in. That one's easy. Negative 6/5 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 3 is 3. What's another good number to plug in?
5.
5. Why 5?
Does it cancel out?
Because it cancels out the 5 on bottom. But I really don't want to mess with those fractions. I don't want to plug numbers in. If all I have to do is start here and count 6 and count 5, that's a lot easier to me than having to plug numbers in and deal with those fractions. Questions on that? Okay, so this was from that review packet that I passed out. This was this question we had a few minutes ago. And I said I can answer this question in about 15 minutes. I lied. I think it's only been 13. Close enough. So I gave you the graph. And I asked you to find the equation of that graph. What are you going to do?
Use y equals mx plus b, just plug it in.
Use y equals mx plus b. What's the m number?
Slope.
The slope, which we figured out earlier to be 1/2. And what's the b number? 1. We figured that out because that was the y-intercept. So our answer, the equation of this line is y equals 1/2 x plus 1.
So how do you find B?
B, you look at the graph and say, B is right there. It's right where you cross the y-axis. That's the B number. Okay, let me draw one more picture and we'll do that over again. This line looks like this.
I'm sorry.
Interesting cell phone ring.
I thought it was a rough answer.
Another math teacher has a rule that every time a student's cell phone goes off in class, they have to bring snacks the next time.
I like that.
Now I'm before me. Now I'm worn out.
Okay.
I read somewhere they threaten to make you read it.
Make you read the text that comes in?
Usually it's off, but I was using my alarms.
Okay. So, here's a line. What's a reasonable value for that point right there?
1.5.
0, comma 3. Okay? I don't want to use decimals if I don't have to.
Oh yeah, I thought you were going by the college rule lines.
Nope. Apparently we were going this way. 1, 2, 3. So that's 0, comma 3. What's that?
Well, then I think we should go with 2.
Well, too late. I drew it in ink. I can't change it. And then how about, I don't know, this point right here? How far over is that? That looks like it's about 1, 2, 3, for 5.
Sure.
So this would be the point 5 comma negative 2. All right, so I want you to do two things. I want you to tell me the slope, and then I want you to tell me the equation. What's the slope?
Five.
Negative 5 comma 5?
Yeah.
Now slope is just a number. You're thinking of a point. You're very close to the right thing.
That's what I was gonna look.
Negative 5. Oh no,
I got
negative 5.
one.
5.
Just X.
Negative
Slope is
5,
1.
Slope is not 1, but you
Negative
could.
5, 5.
So when you're saying slope is negative 5, 5, is that what you mean?
Yes.
Oh,
No, slope is just a number, remember? How do you find slope? You take the y value and you divide by the x's. So if I were finding the slope here, I think I would just count. I would start here. How far down do I have to go? I have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have to go down 5. So there's your negative 5. And then I divide by my run, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Sorry, that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
That's what you were trying to say. Okay. So your slope is negative 5 divided by 5, which is negative 1. You could, of course, use the little formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That would be fine. But if I'm given a picture, I like to just count. I think it's easier.
But in the equation, would still do negative 1 or do fraction?
The equation, we would have y equals mx plus b. So y equals, what's your m number?
Negative 1.
Negative 1x. If you want to write it as a fraction, you can, but I would just write it as negative 1. Plus, what's the b number?
3.
3. Because that happens to be the y-intercept.
Could it be just negative x?
You could just write it as y equals negative x plus 3. That would be correct also, yes. Multiplying by negative 1, when we multiply a variable by negative 1, we just write it as negative x quite often.
So if you were asked to simplify, which would be right? Simplify your equation. Either of those be correct.
If you're doing your homework on a quiz or a test, either of those would be perfectly fine. If you're doing it on MyLab is sometimes very fussy. My guess is it would want that one. It might mark it wrong if you write it that way.
If we email you, will you fix that?
And if you email me, I will fix that, yes. And some people have been doing that when they haven't reduced their fractions or something. Yes?
You got that by counting, like how did you, by counting over and down, like how many?
I started here, and I counted down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, you started at 3.
So that was my negative 5, and then I went over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was my positive 5.
Okay.
Now, if you give us on the quiz just like that with no point, we can put a point there and then just put a point anywhere and then do the equation?
Right. If I were to give you, like this problem, that I'm going to give you in a minute. If I were to give you this problem, which I'm going to pass this out in about 30 seconds here. What is the equation in slope-intercept form? Well, the first thing you would do is you would look at that problem and you would find the intercept. Where's the intercept? 0, comma, negative 1. It's too small for your eyes? Okay. So we begin by finding our intercept 0, comma, negative 1. Now what you want to do is you want to look at the graph and find a spot where the line hits a nice corner. So I don't want to go, say, right here, because I'm kind of in the middle of no man's land.
So 5.
5, negative 2 right there. Oh, that's negative 3. See, it's too small for my eyes, too. So that's the point 5, comma, negative 3. So now how would I find the slope?
Counting or
Count down or use the formula. Again, if I have the graph, I really like to count. So I got to start here. How far down do I have to go?
5.
1, 2 steps down. And then how far to the right? 5. So my slope here is 2 down, 5 to the right. So to answer the question, what is its equation? Y equals
Two over 5. That's
negative 2 over 5x
Plus -1.
plus -1. Typically we'd write that as -1. Again, if you wrote it as plus
Right,
-1,
right.
that's fine. Typically we write it as -1. Questions on that?
I'm just gonna try. When it's in front of me, it's different.